Sometimes the most ordinary moments become the turning points that reshape entire lives. What happens when a daughter's love for her sick mother accidentally opens a door to a future she never imagined? When 22-year-old Maya Washington walked into that gleaming corporate office on a rainy Tuesday morning, she had no idea she was about to challenge everything a powerful CEO thought he knew about talent, potential, and the courage it takes to show up when life gets complicated. This isn't just another success story. It's about the raw, unfiltered moment when authenticity meets opportunity, when desperation transforms into determination, and when one honest conversation between strangers becomes the foundation for something extraordinary. Because sometimes, the best interviews happen when you're not even supposed to be there. What you're about to read will make you question everything you think you know about first impressions, second chances, and the incredible power of simply telling the truth when you have nothing left to lose. Maya Washington stood outside the glass doors of Sterling and Associates, her hands trembling as she clutched her mother's worn leather portfolio. The rain had stopped, but droplets still clung to her natural hair, which she had hastily pulled back into what she hoped looked like a professional bun. Her reflection in the polished glass showed a young woman who clearly didn't belong in this world of sharp suits and confident strides. The building stretched 30 floors into the Seattle sky, its modern architecture speaking of money and power. Maya had never been inside a place like this. Growing up in the Central District, her world consisted of corner stores, community centers, and the small apartment she shared with her mother, Carmen. This corporate tower might as well have been on another planet. She checked her phone for the 100th time. The interview was scheduled for 10:30 a.m., and it was now 10:25. Her mother should have been the one standing here, not her. Carmen Washington had worked 3 jobs to put herself through night school, earning her business degree at 45. This interview at Sterling and Associates was supposed to be her big break, her chance to finally use her education in a meaningful way. But life had other plans. 3 days ago, Carmen had collapsed at her job cleaning offices downtown. The doctors said it was pneumonia, complicated by exhaustion and stress. She was stable now, but confined to bed rest for at least 2 weeks. When the call came from Sterling and Associates confirming the interview, Carmen had been devastated. 20 years I've been waiting for an opportunity like this, she had whispered from her hospital bed, her voice hoarse. And now I'm too sick to even show up. Maya had watched her mother's face crumple with disappointment. Carmen Washington was the strongest person she knew. Seeing her so defeated was unbearable. That's when Maya made a decision that seemed crazy even to her. I'll go, she had said simply. Maya, baby, you can't just walk into a corporate interview pretending to be me. I'm not going to pretend to be you, Mama. I'm going to tell them exactly what happened and ask them to reschedule. But I'm not going to let them think we're unreliable or that we don't take this seriously. Now, standing outside Sterling and Associates, Maya wondered if she had made a terrible mistake. She wasn't dressed for this. Her best outfit was a navy blue dress she had borrowed from her friend Keisha, paired with pumps that were half a size too small. She had printed her mother's resume at the library, along with copies of her transcripts and references. Everything was in order except for one crucial detail. She wasn't Carmen Washington. The lobby was all marble and chrome, with a reception desk that looked like it cost more than Maya's annual tuition at community college. She approached the perfectly polished woman behind the desk, whose blonde hair was styled in a way that probably took an hour and cost more than Maya's monthly groceries. Good morning, Maya said, trying to keep her voice steady. I'm here about the 10:30 interview with Mr. Sterling. The receptionist's eyes scanned Maya from head to toe in a way that made her skin burn with embarrassment. Name? Well, that's complicated. The interview was scheduled for Carmen Washington, but she's my mother, and she's in the hospital with pneumonia. I was hoping to speak with Mr. Sterling about possibly rescheduling, or at least explaining the situation in person. The receptionist's perfectly painted eyebrows rose slightly. You're not Carmen Washington? No, ma'am. I'm Maya Washington, her daughter. I know this is unusual, but my mother has been preparing for this interview for weeks. She's worked so hard to get here, and I couldn't bear the thought of your company thinking she just didn't show up. For a moment, the receptionist looked genuinely confused, as if the concept of showing up to explain someone else's absence was foreign to her. She picked up her phone and spoke in hushed tones to someone on the other end. Maya caught fragments of the conversation, not the candidate, daughter, mother in hospital, quite unusual. After what felt like an eternity, the receptionist hung up. Mr. Sterling will see you. 32nd floor, corner office. Elevators are to your right. Maya's heart pounded as she rode the elevator up. Each floor that passed felt like another step away from her comfort zone. When the doors opened on the 32nd floor, she was greeted by another reception area, this one even more intimidating than the lobby. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of Elliott Bay, and the furniture looked like it belonged in a museum. Maya Washington, a woman in her 50s with silver hair and kind eyes, approached her. I'm Patricia Mills, Mr. Sterling's assistant. He's ready to see you. Patricia led Maya down a hallway lined with awards and photographs of ribbon cuttings and handshake deals. At the end of the hall, she knocked on a heavy wooden door and opened it without waiting for a response. Mr. Sterling, Maya Washington is here. The office was enormous, with windows on 2 walls and enough space for a conference table, sitting area, and a desk that looked like it had been carved from a single tree. Behind that desk sat a man who was younger than Maya had expected, probably in his early 40s, with dark hair touched with silver at the temples and intense gray eyes. James Sterling looked up from a stack of papers, and, for a moment, Maya forgot how to breathe. She had expected someone older, more obviously intimidating. Instead, she found herself facing a man whose presence filled the room not through aggression but through an almost magnetic confidence. Ms. Washington, he said, standing and extending his hand. Please have a seat. Maya shook his hand, surprised by the warmth of his grip, and settled into the chair across from his desk. The leather was soft and expensive, and she tried not to think about how out of place she must look. I understand there's been some confusion about today's interview, James said, settling back into his chair. My assistant mentioned that you're not actually Carmen Washington? No, sir. Carmen Washington is my mother. Maya's voice came out stronger than she felt. She was supposed to be here today, but she's in the hospital with pneumonia. I know this is completely inappropriate, and I'm not here to interview for the position. I just couldn't stand the thought of your company thinking my mother was unreliable or didn't care about this opportunity. James leaned back in his chair, studying her with an expression she couldn't read. So you came all the way down here just to explain why your mother couldn't make it to her interview? Yes, sir. And to ask if there was any possibility of rescheduling once she's recovered. Tell me about your mother. The question caught Maya off guard. She had expected him to politely dismiss her and maybe make a note to call Carmen later. Instead, he seemed genuinely interested. My mother is the hardest working person I know, Maya began, and once she started talking, the words flowed like water breaking through a dam. She raised me on her own while working 3 jobs. She cleaned offices at night, worked at a diner during the day, and somehow managed to go to school and get her business degree. It took her 8 years because she could only take 1 or 2 classes at a time, but she never gave up. James nodded, encouraging her to continue. She's always told me that education and hard work can take you anywhere, but I know she's never really had the chance to prove that for herself. Every job she's had has been about survival, about making sure I had what I needed. This interview, this position, it represents everything she's been working toward for 20 years. What position did your mother apply for? Regional Operations Coordinator. She saw the posting online and spent weeks researching your company, learning about your processes, even reaching out to current employees on LinkedIn to better understand the role. James picked up a file from his desk and flipped through it. Maya assumed it was her mother's application materials. Impressive credentials, he said. Her recommendations are outstanding, and her academic record shows real dedication. But, tell me, what do you know about Sterling and Associates? Maya felt her cheeks warm. She hadn't expected to be questioned about the company. I know you're a logistics and supply chain consulting firm. You work with companies to optimize their operations and reduce costs. My mother explained that the Regional Operations Coordinator would be responsible for managing client relationships across the Pacific Northwest and ensuring project implementations stay on schedule and within budget. You seem well informed for someone who wasn't supposed to be here today. My mother talks about her goals all the time. When she gets excited about something, she researches everything. Our kitchen table has been covered with printouts about supply chain management for the past month. James smiled for the first time since Maya had entered the office, and she felt some of the tension leave her shoulders. Where do you go to school, Maya? I'm taking general education classes at Seattle Central College. I'm not sure what I want to major in yet. What draws you to different subjects? Maya hesitated. This conversation had veered far from what she had expected, and she wasn't sure where it was heading. I like learning about how things work, how systems connect to each other. In my sociology classes, we talk about how individual actions affect larger communities. In my math classes, I love seeing how problems have solutions if you just approach them the right way. Those are valuable perspectives, especially in consulting work. Sir, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I really just came to explain about my mother and to ask about rescheduling. James set down the file and leaned forward, his expression becoming more serious. Maya, what you did today took courage. Most people would have simply called to cancel or reschedule. The fact that you came here in person, that you were willing to face an uncomfortable situation to protect your mother's reputation, that tells me something important about your character. Maya didn't know how to respond to that. I'd like to propose something unusual, James continued. Instead of rescheduling your mother's interview, what if I offered you a position here? The words hit Maya like a physical force. She was certain she had misheard. I'm sorry, what? I'm offering you a job, Maya. Not the regional operations coordinator position your mother applied for, but an entry-level position that would allow you to learn the business while continuing your education. Maya's mind reeled. This had to be some kind of mistake. Mr. Sterling, I appreciate the gesture, but I'm not qualified for anything here. I'm 22 years old with no work experience beyond retail and food service. I don't have a degree. You have something more valuable than experience or a degree, Maya. You have integrity. You have loyalty. You have the courage to do the right thing even when it's difficult. Those qualities can't be taught. But what about my mother? She's the one who deserves this support. To the hospital room smelled of disinfectant and wilted flowers. Carmen Washington lay propped against thin pillows, her usually vibrant complexion dulled by illness and worry. When Maya walked through the door carrying 2 cups of coffee from the cafeteria, Carmen's eyes immediately searched her daughter's face for clues about how the morning had gone. Well, Carmen asked, her voice still raspy from the pneumonia. Did you manage to speak with someone? Were they understanding about rescheduling? Maya set the coffee down on the small bedside table and pulled the visitor's chair closer to her mother's bed. She had rehearsed this conversation during the entire bus ride to the hospital, but now that she was here, she didn't know where to begin. Mama, something unexpected happened. Carmen's expression shifted to concern. What kind of unexpected? Did they refuse to reschedule? Maya, honey, if they weren't willing to work with us, then maybe that's not the kind of company I want to work for anyway. No, it's not that. They were very understanding. Maya took a deep breath. Mr. Sterling, the CEO, he offered me a job. Carmen blinked several times, as if trying to process words that didn't make sense. He what now? He offered me a position at Sterling and Associates. Entry level, but with opportunities to learn and grow while I finish school. Carmen struggled to sit up straighter in bed. Maya Washington, what exactly did you say to that man? And don't you dare tell me you pretended to be me, because I raised you better than that. I told him the truth, Mama. I explained that you were sick, that this interview meant everything to you, and that I couldn't stand the thought of them thinking you were unreliable. We talked for maybe 20 minutes, and then he offered me a job. Carmen stared at her daughter for a long moment. Just like that? A CEO of a major company offers a college student with no experience a job because she showed up to explain her mother's absence. I know it sounds crazy. I thought maybe he was just being kind, but he gave me his direct number and told me to think about it seriously. Carmen leaned back against her pillows, her mind clearly racing. What kind of position? He didn't go into all the details, but he mentioned entry-level work that would let me learn the business. Mama, I think this could be real. And what about my interview? What about the coordinator position I applied for? Maya reached for her mother's hand. He still wants to meet with you when you're better. He was impressed by your credentials and recommendations. Carmen was quiet for several minutes, staring out the small hospital window at the gray Seattle sky. When she finally spoke, her voice was thoughtful rather than excited. Maya, baby, I need you to listen to me carefully. I've been working toward this opportunity for 20 years. I've sacrificed and studied and dreamed about having a chance to prove myself in a professional environment. But I didn't do all of that so you could skip steps in your own journey. What do you mean? Carmen turned to face her daughter directly. I mean that taking shortcuts, even good shortcuts, can sometimes rob you of the lessons you need to learn. You're smart, Maya, smarter than I was at your age. But you're also young, and there's value in building your foundation properly. Maya felt a knot form in her stomach. Are you saying I shouldn't take the job? I'm saying you should think very carefully about why this man offered it to you, and what accepting it might mean for your future. Before Maya could respond, there was a soft knock on the hospital room door. A nurse peeked in, followed by Maya's best friend Keisha, who was carrying a small bouquet of flowers and wearing the biggest smile Maya had seen all week. Sorry to interrupt, Keisha said, setting the flowers on the windowsill. I brought these for Ms. Washington and wanted to check how everyone was doing. Keisha, sweetheart, thank you, Carmen said warmly. Maya was just telling me about her adventure this morning. Keisha looked between mother and daughter, clearly sensing tension. Adventure? I thought you were just going to reschedule an interview. Maya filled Keisha in on the morning's events, watching her friend's expression change from confusion to amazement to something that looked like concern. Wait, back up, Keisha said when Maya finished. This CEO just offered you a job out of nowhere? Maya, that doesn't happen. Are you sure this is legitimate? What do you mean? Maya asked, though she had been wondering the same thing. I mean, successful businessmen don't usually hand out jobs to random college students, no matter how impressed they are by their character. There's got to be more to this story. Carmen nodded slowly. Keisha has a point. Maya, did this Mr. Sterling ask you anything unusual? Did he make any comments that seemed inappropriate? Maya felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment. Mama, it wasn't like that at all. The conversation was completely professional. He asked about you, about my school, about what I was interested in studying. It felt genuine. But why you? Keisha pressed. I mean, no offense, but what makes you special enough for a CEO to notice? The question stung, but Maya knew Keisha wasn't trying to be cruel. She was being practical, which was exactly what Maya needed right now. I don't know, Maya admitted. He said something about character being more valuable than credentials, about the best employees being people who show up when it matters. Carmen and Keisha exchanged a look that Maya couldn't interpret. Honey, Carmen said gently, there are a lot of good people in this world who show up when it matters. That alone doesn't usually result in job offers from Fortune 500 companies. Maya felt defensive for the first time since leaving Sterling and Associates. So you think I'm lying? You think I made this up? No. Baby, I think you're telling me exactly what happened. But I also think there might be more to this situation than what appeared on the surface. Keisha sat down on the edge of the bed. Maya, remember when we were seniors and that talent scout said he wanted to sign you to a modeling contract? Maya groaned. That was completely different. That guy was obviously a creep. But at first, you were excited, right? Because someone important had noticed you and offered you an opportunity that seemed too good to be true. This isn't the same thing, Keisha. Maybe not, but it might be worth asking some questions before you make a decision. Carmen reached for the business card Maya had left on the bedside table and examined it carefully. This looks legitimate. James Sterling, Chief Executive Officer. The company logo matches what I researched online. So you think I should take the job? I think you should do research. Real research. Find out everything you can about James Sterling and Sterling and Associates. Look up their employee reviews online. Try to find people who work there and ask them about the company culture. If this opportunity is legitimate, it will hold up to scrutiny. Maya felt overwhelmed. This morning she had been focused on a simple mission: explain her mother's absence and ask for a reschedule. Now she was facing a decision that could change her entire life, and everyone seemed to have doubts about its authenticity. There's something else, Maya said quietly. Mr. Sterling mentioned that 15 years ago, he learned that character matters more than credentials. He said his best employees were people who showed up when it mattered. It sounded like he was speaking from experience, like maybe someone had given him a chance when he was young. Carmen's expression softened slightly. That's possible. But, Maya, even if his motivations are pure, that doesn't mean this is the right opportunity for you. Why not? Because you're 22 years old with unlimited potential. You could become anything you want to be. A doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, a teacher, anything. But if you drop out of college to take an entry-level position at a consulting firm, even a good one, you might be closing doors before you've had a chance to see what's behind them. Maya had never thought about it that way. But he said I could continue my education while working. Companies say a lot of things, baby. The reality is that once you're working full-time, especially in a demanding environment, it becomes much harder to focus on school. And if you don't have a clear career path in mind, you might find yourself stuck in a role that's comfortable but not fulfilling. Keisha nodded in agreement. Plus, what happens if it doesn't work out? What if you're not good at the job? Or what if Mr. Sterling leaves the company? Or what if they have budget cuts? You'd be left without a degree and without work experience that transfers to other fields. Maya felt like the walls of the small hospital room were closing in. This morning she had felt like Cinderella being invited to the ball. Now she felt like everyone was pointing out that the carriage might turn back into a pumpkin. So you both think I should turn down the job? Carmen reached for her daughter's hand again. I think you should make an informed decision based on facts, not emotions. And I think you should consider what you really want for your future, not just what seems appealing in the moment. But what if this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity? What if I turn it down and spend the rest of my life wondering what might have been? Maya, honey, you are smart, talented, and motivated. This will not be your only once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But your early 20s, your chance to explore different paths and build a strong educational foundation. That's something you can't get back. The conversation was interrupted by Maya's phone ringing. She didn't recognize the number, but something about it looked familiar. Hello. Maya, this is James Sterling. I hope I'm not calling at a bad time. Maya's eyes widened, and she gestured frantically to her mother and Keisha to be quiet. No, sir, not at all. How can I help you? I realized after you left that I hadn't given you enough information to make an informed decision about my offer. Would you be available to come back to the office tomorrow morning? I'd like to show you around, introduce you to some of the team, and give you a better sense of what the position would entail. Maya's mouth went dry. That would be great, Mr. Sterling. What time works for you? How about 10 o'clock? And, Maya, I'd also like to extend an invitation to your mother, if she's feeling up to it. I know she's recovering from pneumonia, but if she'd like to visit the office and meet some of our team, she's more than welcome. Maya looked at her mother, who was clearly straining to hear both sides of the conversation. I'll ask her, sir. Thank you for thinking of that. Excellent. I'll see you tomorrow at 10. And, Maya, bring any questions you have. This is a big decision, and I want you to have all the information you need. After Maya hung up, the hospital room was quiet for several moments. He wants both of us to come tomorrow, Maya finally said, to tour the office and meet the team. Carmen smiled for the first time since Maya had arrived. That changes things a bit. How so? Because legitimate businessmen don't usually invite sick mothers to their offices unless they're serious about their offers and confident in their company culture. Keisha looked less convinced, or unless they're very good at appearing legitimate. Carmen sat up straighter in bed, her expression becoming more determined. You know what? I'm going to call my doctor and see if I can be discharged tomorrow morning. I want to see this place for myself, and I want to meet this Mr. Sterling who thinks my daughter is special enough to hire on the spot. Mama, you should rest. You don't have to do this just because I'm confused about what to do. Maya Washington, I've been dreaming about this company for months. Wild horses couldn't keep me from that office tomorrow, pneumonia or no pneumonia. Keisha gathered her purse and jacket. Well, this should be interesting. Maya, promise me you'll be careful. And if anything feels off tomorrow, trust your instincts. After Keisha left, Maya and her mother sat in comfortable silence for a while, both lost in their own thoughts. Mama, can I ask you something? Of course, baby. If this job offer is real and legitimate, are you disappointed that it came to me instead of you? Carmen was quiet for so long that Maya wondered if she had fallen asleep. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft but clear. Maya, when you were born, I was 19 years old with no money, no education, and no real plan for the future. Every choice I've made since then has been about creating opportunities for you that I never had. If James Sterling sees something special in my daughter, something valuable enough to build a career around, then every sacrifice I've made for the past 22 years has been worth it. But what about your dreams? What about everything you've worked for? Carmen smiled, and for the first time in days, she looked like her old self. Baby, my dreams were never just about me. They were about proving that people like us, people who start with nothing, can achieve anything we set our minds to. If you take this job and succeed, you'll be proving that. And if I eventually get my chance at that coordinator position, I'll be proving it too. Carmen Washington insisted on wearing her best suit to Sterling and Associates, despite the fact that she had been discharged from the hospital only 2 hours earlier. Maya watched her mother apply lipstick in the reflection of the taxi window, marveling at Carmen's ability to transform herself from patient to professional with nothing more than determination and good posture. You sure you're feeling up to this, Mama? Maya asked as their taxi pulled up to the familiar glass building. Baby, I've been dreaming about seeing the inside of a place like this for 20 years. A little pneumonia isn't going to keep me away now. The lobby looked different to Maya this time, less intimidating and more like a place where real people worked. Carmen stopped just inside the entrance, her eyes taking in the marble floors, the modern art on the walls, and the steady flow of professionally dressed employees moving between elevators and meeting rooms. This is beautiful, Carmen whispered, and Maya could hear the wonder in her voice. At the reception desk, the same blonde woman from yesterday greeted them with a smile that seemed more genuine than polite. Ms. Washington? Both Ms. Washingtons? Mr. Sterling is expecting you. I'll call upstairs and let them know you're here. While they waited, Maya noticed her mother watching everything with the sharp attention of someone who had spent years dreaming of being in exactly this position. Carmen observed how employees interacted with each other, how the reception area was organized, how visitors were treated. It was like watching a detective gather clues. Ms. Washington? A different voice called their names. Maya turned to see a young black woman approaching, probably close to Maya's own age, wearing a tailored dress and carrying a tablet. I'm Jasmine Chun, Mr. Sterling's project coordinator. He asked me to give you a tour before your meeting. Maya felt a small rush of relief. Jasmine looked professional but approachable, and her presence immediately made the office feel less like foreign territory. It's wonderful to meet you both, Jasmine continued, extending her hand first to Carmen and then to Maya. Mr. Sterling told me a bit about your situation. How are you feeling, Ms. Washington? Much better, thank you. And please, call me Carmen. This is my daughter Maya. Perfect. Well, Carmen and Maya, why don't we start with a tour of the main work areas, and then I can introduce you to some of the team. As they walked through the offices, Jasmine explained the company's structure and culture with the ease of someone who genuinely enjoyed her work. Sterling and Associates employed about 200 people across 3 offices, with the Seattle location serving as headquarters. The company specialized in supply chain optimization and logistics consulting, working with everyone from small regional businesses to major corporations. What's the atmosphere like here? Carmen asked as they passed a conference room where a group of people were engaged in what looked like an intense but friendly discussion. Honestly, it's the best place I've ever worked, Jasmine replied. Mr. Sterling sets a tone that's professional but not stuffy. People here genuinely care about doing good work and helping each other succeed. Maya noticed that the employees they passed seemed engaged and purposeful. She didn't see anyone looking miserable or stressed, which had been her main mental image of corporate life based on movies and television. How long have you worked here? Maya asked. 3 years. I started right after college in a position similar to what Mr. Sterling is considering for you. I was terrified the first day, but the learning curve here is really supportive. They stopped at a workspace area where several people were collaborating on what looked like a complex project involving charts and graphs spread across multiple monitors. This is our regional analysis team, Jasmine explained. They're working on a supply chain optimization project for a group of Pacific Northwest manufacturers. Maya, if you joined us, you'd probably start by supporting projects like this one. A woman in her 30s looked up from one of the monitors and smiled at them. Are these the famous Washingtons I've been hearing about? Jasmine made introductions. Carmen and Maya Washington, meet Sarah Kim, our senior regional analyst. Sarah stood and shook hands with both of them. I understand there's a possibility we might be getting one or both of you as colleagues. That's what we're here to find out, Carmen replied. What's it like working on projects like this? Challenging in the best way, Sarah said. Every client has, so you think I should take the job? I think you should go to that office tomorrow with your eyes wide open. Ask hard questions. Meet the people you'd be working with. Get a realistic sense of what your day-to-day life would be like. And then, make a decision based on facts, not fear. Maya squeezed her mother's hand. What if I'm not good enough? What if I get there and realize I'm in over my head? Then, you'll learn and grow and figure it out, just like I did when I started college at 45. Maya, being good enough isn't about knowing everything from day one. It's about being willing to work hard and learn from your mistakes. As visiting hours came to an end, Maya gathered her things and prepared to leave. Tomorrow would bring answers to questions she hadn't even known to ask this morning. But tonight, she had her mother's blessing to explore a possibility that neither of them could have imagined when the day began. The rain had stopped by the time Maya reached the hospital parking lot, and for the first time since leaving Sterling and Associates, she allowed herself to feel excited about what tomorrow might bring. Whatever James Sterling's motivations were, whatever risks might be involved, she was going to face them with the same courage that had carried her into that corporate office in the first place. Because sometimes the most important thing you can do is show up for the opportunities that scare you, even when you're not sure you're ready for them. Nighty. James opened a drawer in his desk and pulled out a business card. He wrote something on the back and handed it to Maya. This is my direct number. I want you to go home and think about what I've offered. Discuss it with your mother. If you're interested, call me tomorrow. Maya stared at the card in her hand, trying to process what had just happened. I don't understand why you would do this. Because 15 years ago, I was a young man who thought success in business was about hiring people with perfect resumes and impressive degrees. I learned the hard way that character matters more than credentials. The best employees I've ever had were people who showed up when it mattered, who cared more about doing the right thing than advancing themselves. He stood up, signaling the end of their meeting. Maya rose as well, still clutching the business card. Maya, talent comes in many forms. Your mother clearly has the skills and education for the coordinator position, and I'd still like to meet with her when she's recovered. But you have something different, something that can't be taught in school. Don't underestimate the value of showing up when others wouldn't. As Maya rode the elevator down to the lobby, her mind spun with everything that had just happened. She had walked into this building expecting a brief, uncomfortable conversation about rescheduling an interview. Instead, she was leaving with a job offer that could change the trajectory of her entire life. The rain had started again by the time she reached the street, but Maya barely noticed. She pulled out her phone to call her mother, then stopped. This was too big for a phone call. This news needed to be delivered in person, where she could see Carmen's face and try to make sense of this incredible turn of events together. As she waited for the bus, Maya looked back up at the Sterling and Associates building. Somewhere up there, James Sterling was probably already moving on to his next meeting, his next decision that would affect someone's life in ways they couldn't imagine. But, for Maya, this moment would be the dividing line between who she was before and who she might become. The bus pulled up, and as Maya climbed aboard, she realized that her mother's illness might have prevented her from making that interview. But it had led to something neither of them could have planned. Sometimes the best opportunities come disguised as the worst circumstances, and sometimes showing up is the most powerful thing you can do, even when you're not the person who was supposed to be there.